Yeah, even a little bit of patience. Well, I see we're at 1 o'clock. I want to make sure that everybody's ready to roll here. So, Randa, what are you seeing?
I see that your presentation, your main slide, so we should be ready to go. Before you get started, I will just remind everyone that if you have questions, to please put those in the chat box to all panelists so that we can all see those questions that you might have, and that way Bill can also see them as he goes through his presentation. We will be answering questions at the end of today's presentation. And so if you have those, you can go ahead and drop them in the box, but we won't be really addressing them until the end. So with that, turn it over to Bill.
Okay, Randa, thank you. I'm Bill Byford. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of District Operations. I'll be with you today talking about P-EBT, Pandemic Electronic Benefit Transfer for Round 4 for this year. So I want to welcome everybody from Memphis to Mountain City and everywhere in between. I hope your weather is better than ours here in Middle Tennessee. I know it kind of is going to preclude a lot of our participants today, but we will be recording this for your hearing and viewing pleasure down the road, so nobody will miss it. We'll be sending out the link probably early next week, and we wanted to let you know that we will be recording today. So this informational webinar is for public school personnel only. If you're a private school and you've logged into this, I would give you the advice to log off because there will be different guidance for you versus public schools as a result of our inability to track attendance for you. So if you are a private school and you're listening in today, we can save you a little bit of time and you can go ahead and log off. We will have an informational webinar for you next week. On the 9th, we'll get you information out pretty quickly about that. Actually, it's going out this afternoon, so if you're a private school, you can log off now. In the spirit of continual improvement, we feel like the P-EBT process continues to improve. I know we've had some pitfalls in previous rounds, and we've had different business rules and guidance from the USDA, and it has been pain points for all of us, I assure you. But we feel like this latest round, round 4, is going to be better for not only students and families, but personnel out in school buildings and district offices and state departments as well. So I want to tell you that there's really 2 big things that we're going to ask of you this year, and we'll absolutely go into the details of that moving forward in this presentation. But those 2 things are the initial upload of free and reduced information for your student body. If you're a CEP district, that'll be your total enrollment. If you're a non-CEP district or a non-CEP school, that will be just your free and reduced information. And like I said, we'll go into more detail later. And the second thing is to confirm and attest all the things that we're going to shoot your way, like attendance and coding, making sure that you put your eyeballs on that and attest that those things are correct and right to the best of your knowledge, and we'll get this round 4 kicked off, and hopefully it'll be a better one for all involved. We always want to talk about our Best for All strategy. The work that we're currently in resides in the student readiness category, where we meet the needs, all the non-academic needs of all students in the state of Tennessee. And for this particular program, it is sustenance and meals to sustain them throughout the day and throughout their lives. I wanted to go into our mission statement for the nutrition team, and that's to develop extraordinary school nutrition professionals and provide strategies to increase consumption of healthy school meals at the local level. And then 2 guiding principles with P-EBT, and this is really around how we make decisions around this particular project. Those decisions are made in the best interest of students and families and school personnel, so we aim to minimize the burden on school districts and try to mitigate and manage this program at the state level as much as we can. But when we do ask you for data or information or attestation, confirmation, verification, that you do that and do it in a timely manner, and that helps all involved, especially those kids that qualify for an earned benefit. And I always throw out the disclaimer when we talk about P-EBT. It is tough. We don't make more money completing these tasks that we do, and I know I've heard a lot of pain points across the state over the last 8 months around P-EBT. But if we consider that at the end of the day, students who earn those benefits are receiving those benefits, and it's helping sustain them throughout their day and throughout their night, it makes the work a little bit easier for us to do. So think of that when the work gets hard, and it will create a warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart, and you'll know that those less fortunate than you actually earned and received the benefit. Here's our objectives for our next hour or so together, understanding round 4 for school year 21-22. So who is eligible, how attendance coding plays a role in that process, the school nutrition supervisor's role, the district attendance supervisor's role, our role here at Tdoe, and obviously we partner with the Department of Human Services, so their role as well, and then the timeline of events for round 4 and action items moving forward. Let's jump right into who is eligible. So, P-EBT eligibility. The first thing is you are enrolled in a Tennessee public or private school. Virtual academies are not eligible. Schools must be operating the school breakfast program, national school lunch program, or seamless summer option. Must be qualified to receive free and or reduced price meals through an income application, directly certified through our community eligibility provision, which is CEP. You'll hear me refer to that a lot. And then Provision 2 schools, which we have very few of those in the state of Tennessee. You must be attending in-person instruction. Like I said above, virtual academies are not eligible for this benefit. Missed access to meal service due to COVID-19. That's probably the most important thing that you'll hear today, and that's, did you miss access to meals as a result of being out for COVID-19 reasons? If you were not out for COVID-19 reasons, if you were not quarantined or had COVID or some derivative of that, you do not qualify for these benefits because you actually didn't miss a meal. So getting into some business rules, I don't want to get so deep into business rules that we all get confused, but I will do a high level of business rules for P-EBT eligibility for this year. So you'll notice that in previous rounds that these business rules have changed over the certain rounds that we've already had. This year, the child's school has had a reduced attendance or closed for 5 consecutive instructional days due to COVID-19. So I think the importance here is obviously around the school has closed, or a classroom has closed, or children were absent that qualified for free and reduced lunch, or they were in a CEP district or school and it reduced attendance as a result of those absences that were due to COVID-19 reasons. That's a little bit different this round than in other rounds. If you remember the 5-day rule, and once you met the 5-day rule, you were good to go, or you had to have 5 consecutive absences and then it reset after those absences. We've had multiple iterations from the USDA in previous rounds. So for this particular round 4, when one child meets the 5 consecutive day requirement, then the whole school becomes eligible. And that whole school in CEP means the entire enrollment. If it is a non-CEP school, then it's the students that qualify for free and reduced lunch, either through application or through the DC list. But it could be as little as one child meets that 5 consecutive day requirement, which is a reduced attendance for your school. So that's a big business rule to wrap your arms around. When that happens, when one child meets that 5 consecutive day requirement that qualifies for that, or when the school is out for 5 consecutive days, we call that green lighting. So we are looking for the day that that first child misses 5 consecutive days, or the school is closed for 5 consecutive days. And once we can identify that through attendance, through waivers that we've been looking at, then that school will be green lighted. And from that day forward, students in that school will qualify for benefits if they are out for COVID-related reasons. So it means all eligible enrolled at the school now met the 5-day requirement, and P-EBT benefits are paid only when a school is green lighted. So we have to establish that first. Districts using the D code. So we've encouraged districts to use the D code all year long, and we've talked to attendance folks about that, and we've talked to nutrition folks about that. I've talked to directors of schools about that in Gatlinburg. We've encouraged districts to use the D code. That didn't mean you had to use it. That didn't mean some did and some didn't. We looked at data that we could pull from EIS, and at first the numbers were not as big as we'd like with districts using the D code. And the more we talked about it along the way, it seemed like we've got a really good number of schools and districts now who are using that D code. It's about 80% at this point. So if you are using that D code, Tdoe will provide the attendance data to the Tennessee Department of Human Services through our EIS system, and we will identify as a result of that. Students too sick to decode, they will immediately go to the benefit validation review process. I'll be talking about that a little bit as we progress through the PowerPoint. But we know that obviously to be able to use the D code, there has to be a learning component involved. And sometimes on the front end of that COVID-19 sickness, kids are too sick to utilize that D code, which means
hey, Bill,
that yes.
Do you have the chat box in front of your PowerPoint slide?
I don't see the chat box.
You have something pulled up from WebEx that's causing like a square to be over your PowerPoint slide.
Okay. I'd love to be able to get rid of it. Any suggestions?
No, I mean, it's definitely something WebEx related, because anything that's WebEx related gets blocked out. So it's showing as right in the middle of your actual slide on the presentation. So you should be able to drag it to another screen if you see that box.
I see the box, but I can't get my cursor to do anything with it.
You should be able to click it and drag it to the other screen.
Ah, I got it. How about that? Is that better?
Yep, that's better.
Perfect, thank you. So, as I was saying, on the front end of some of these COVID sicknesses, kids are too sick to participate with the learning component to qualify to use the D code. So we're going to give you the opportunity to look at that data, because some districts are using local codes that we really can't verify. Those local codes turn into absence codes. They default back to absence when they leave your student information system and come into the EIS state system. So that's the whole point for the benefit validation review, is to be able to give that data back to you, give you another chance to put your eyeballs on it from a local level, and attest that those absences were actually COVID related or they weren't. Now, you may be a district out there that says we don't have local codes and we didn't really track COVID, because we do have some districts out there that did that. You can only attest to what you know. So if you haven't been tracking it and you can't attest that it was COVID related, you simply don't do that. But if you have local codes, if you know a kid was too sick to learn and didn't use the D code, you can absolutely have the ability to go in and say that absence was COVID related and the student will earn that benefit. The D code is the gold standard for determining P-EBT benefits, but we do realize that there are circumstances where you could not use the D code in a learning environment. Districts using no code or local code. So early on, the USDA allowed the use of a simplified assumption, and we came up with one, and it basically was around the CDC's the CDC's 10-day guidance at the time. This is a little bit, a couple months back. So the essence and the spirit of the simplified assumption is a child with 6 or more consecutive days with an absence, an A code, will receive the benefit. So if you wrote it down on paper and a kid started that 6+ days absence on a Monday, it would generate a certain amount of days, Monday through Friday, that they missed instruction. If you started it on a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Thursday, a Friday, you really have to put it on paper to see. But what it ended up looking like was 6 or more consecutive days absence. We assumed that was COVID related, and so you won't see those in a benefit verification review. Those benefits will simply be paid out to qualifying kids. The only thing you'll see in a benefit validation review are absence codes that we really can't verify at the state level, and we need you to put your eyeballs on it one last time to say, yes, it was COVID related, or no, it was not. Children not captured in the simplified assumption, meaning 5 days absences or less. If they're not decoded, if they're an absence, they will be sent back to you for validation and verification through our benefit verification review process. There will be a window of time that you have to verify that, and you can send those back to us. I'll give you all the details of that in some future slides. And the spirit really is giving you an additional amount of time to make sure that we get it right. And if a kid earned a benefit and you know it at the local level, be able to verify that and send it back to us. A little bit more on benefit validation review. So there it is again, students coded as an A for 5 days or less, enter the BVR process. So Tdoe will identify those students with 5 or less absences through our EIS system. TDHS will load those student lists into our ServiceNow platform. I think all of our nutrition directors are familiar with our ServiceNow, or we call it SNO platform. Attendance folks, you probably are not, and directors of schools, you probably are not as well, but you will be because we will get you access to that, and I'll explain a little bit more of that moving forward. But 3 folks at the local level will have access to the ServiceNow platform. Nutrition supervisors, attendance supervisors, and directors of schools. District attendance personnel have a window of time to confirm and attest COVID-related absence and upload that file back to the SNO platform. Smaller districts, you can probably do that at the board office. Larger districts will probably have to copy and paste and farm that out to their individual schools and have those attendance clerks have eyeballs on that information and tell if it's COVID-related or not. And then we'll re-aggregate those files at the local level and resubmit those through the platform. The director of schools or their designee, and remember I said 3 people will have access to the platform, attendance, nutrition, and director of schools. It does not matter to me who attests that. The director of schools can attest that it is correct, the nutrition supervisor can attest, or the attendance supervisor can look at that and attest it. That is up to the director of schools. They will be the one to say, I will do it, or I will have my designee do it, and that will be the director of schools' choice.
Hey, Bill, really quickly, someone missed what the Sso platform is, so I think that might be helpful to address before we go forward.
Sure. So ServiceNow is a platform that we upload our information into. So our first task will be to upload free and reduced information in non-CEP districts. Our CEP districts will upload total enrollment for the system, and we will do that through our ServiceNow platform. If you're not familiar with that platform, we will make you and get you familiar with it here pretty quick. So I'll be going over some timelines and some additional trainings that we'll have down the road, and we will absolutely introduce you to that and make you more comfortable with it with resource guides and PowerPoints, and we'll walk you through that platform and how to utilize that platform. So I think the thing I can overemphasize here is obviously there's windows of time for you to do district actions and the state to do their actions and TDHS to do their actions, and then benefits are processed and issued. The biggest thing that I'll emphasize is the timelines. So we are going to do everything that we can do to make these timelines realistic and hit these timelines. We ask you to do the same. When you don't, it will risk student issuance of benefits, and I know nobody wants to do that. So we'll be we'll over-communicate our timelines for your benefit and make sure that everybody's well aware of those timelines. Talk about the school nutrition supervisor's role. So the first thing that they'll be responsible for in non-CEP districts is to upload their free and reduced student information. And that goes all the way back to August when the school year started. So what we're asking you to do, and you'll see the timelines in some subsequent slides here, is from the first day of school all the way up until when you upload this document, and that window of time to upload is from February 10th to February 18th. I know we're sitting here on the 4th today and you're going, well, we can't even start work until the 10th. Actually, we're going to send you the template today, and you can start to work on that, populating that template, and you could get all of that done before the platform actually even opens. We wanted to give you as much time as we could. So we will send that to you today. You can start working on it next week. You'll notice that it won't open until later on in the month, but you'll have plenty of time to do it. So the first thing school nutrition supervisors will do is to upload that free and reduced price data into the portal. The portal is the ServiceNow portal. If you're a non-CEP district or a hybrid district, that's what we're asking you to do. Hybrid means you've got CEP schools in a non-CEP district. So you may have some schools that are CEP and some schools that are not. If you've got schools that are not school nutrition supervisor, we're asking you to upload that free and reduced price information. That's not only the applications that you get, but also the kids that you'll see on your DC list as well. We'll have one additional subsequent upload about a month into this, where we'll say if you've got any additional applications at the school site that have come in after your initial upload, this is your last and final opportunity to upload those for the year. If those are not uploaded, or a family or child does not fill out that application at the school site, they will not be eligible for benefits for this year. So I'll show you a slide coming up here that really details that. Obviously, we want the nutrition supervisor to collaborate with the district attendance personnel in your same district to ensure accuracy. Very important that the state student ID is reported correctly. You'll remember in rounds 2 and 3, we called it retro benefits. We had 18,000 non-matching kids in the state of Tennessee, which was really not that bad when you think 660,000 total records. We had 18,000 that we could not match. That was as a result of the state student ID not being correct, or the student name was different or something like that. If we've got that state student ID, we can do a lot of matching with it, and we just need you to populate that and be correct with it. We know districts have student IDs. We know schools have student IDs, but we're interested in the state student ID, which is typically 9 characters. Student data will be used by TDHS to determine student benefit amount. That'll be something in their programming over there that we give them their attendance that they're asking for, and they do the business rules of calculating student benefits. Here's an example of what this upload template is going to look like. So some of the things that, all of the things that we'll be asking for, district ID number, school ID number, there's your state student ID number, which is very important. Then we get into the student name, date of birth, mailing address. This is a big deal because only you have the mailing addresses. We told families to hold on to those cards. Some of them did, some of them didn't. The ones that didn't will be calling us, wanting us to mail them a new card. We need their address to be able to do that. And then the county that they're from, the free and reduced application approval month that their application, their site-based application was approved, and then the approval year. Pretty straightforward Excel document where you can do a lot of copying and pasting. And hopefully this is going to make your life a lot easier, and it'll definitely make our life easier too if it comes in this way. Let's talk about attendance personnel's role. So obviously benefit validation is their biggest role. At first, they're going to upload their entire enrollment for CEP districts. They will collaborate with the nutrition supervisor. If the district is hybrid, meaning they have some CEP schools and other schools are non-CEP, but there's really 2 things here. You've got the nutrition supervisor is going to upload non-CEP because they know free and reduced information, and then the CEP districts will upload, those attendance supervisors will upload that information because it's total enrollment. P codes or code of record will receive benefits if free and reduced eligible. All A codes for a district will be populated within that ServiceNow platform for verification and attestation by attendance personnel or director of schools or their designee. That is for local codes that we can't recognize, too sick to decode. Remember the example that I gave you where a kid was too sick to take advantage of the decode on the front end of their illness, or a district that is not using any codes. That is what the benefit validation review is for. And again, there's no pressure to say, I don't know if this was COVID related or not. Either you know it or you don't. And if you don't, we don't expect a change from it. They will verify and attest COVID-related absence and upload into that ServiceNow platform within the window. Again, we'll communicate those windows of time. And then the appeals will continue to occur if the BVR and the reconsideration process is unsuccessful. So I want to take 1 second and talk about what the reconsideration process is. So once we get through benefit verification, you might have some parents that come in and say, we didn't receive our benefit and we want our benefit. They may call TDHS and say that. They may come to the school site and say that. They may knock on the director of school's door and say that. They may call Bill Byford and say that. We've got a reconsideration process where parents can go into the portal, have access to that same portal. TDHS will communicate all this to parents. You don't have to. Tdoe doesn't have to. Those parents will be able to go into the portal during the reconsideration process window and fill out their information and say, I think we should have got a benefit on these dates. And DHS will handle that reconsideration process. And it could look something like the current appeals process where they might make a phone call to you and say, do you know anything about this? I don't think that will happen very often because, again, there are business rules to that. And when we came up with that process, again, we want to make this as unburdensome on school districts as we can. So I just want you to know that if you go through the benefit verification review and parents are still not happy, they have 2 more opportunities that really don't include you where they could potentially receive a benefit. I wanted to make that crystal clear. Here's TDOE's role. So obviously we're collaboratively writing the plan with TDHS. We have submitted that plan. We've gotten feedback in multiple iterations on that plan, and we feel good about it moving forward. Communicate with Tennessee school districts on the business rules of the plan. We're doing a little bit of that today. Facilitate district actions regarding successful implementation of the plan. We're communicating those timelines and what our expectations are. We will continue to over-communicate with you so that you are aware of everything along the way. Match attendance data with eligible students. We can do that through our EIS. Support Tennessee districts with technical assistance when needed. You can always call or email me. You've got 10 field service consultants, nutrition consultants out there that you can contact. There are 1-800 numbers for DHS. There's all kind of technical assistance and the ability to call different folks for different needs when you need that. And then our biggest thing that we take to heart is how we advocate for Tennessee districts when needed. You can talk to a few districts that are probably on this call today with over-issuance issues in previous rounds, and we advocated for hold harmless there. So we are advocating for Tennessee districts at the TDOE. Let's talk about the Department of Human Services role. So obviously to continue to be collaborative with TDOE in plan submission and execution, communicating with Tennessee families on what P-EBT is and how to qualify for those benefits and receive those benefits. They maintain the ServiceNow portal. They confirm student eligibility. They lead the reconsideration process and appeals. They issue benefits, and they also run compliance around over-issuance. Timeline of events. Let's get down to the brass tacks. So first, I will show you in this type format what these timeline of events are, and then I will give you a visual, and dependent on the kind of learner you are, you will probably appreciate the multifaceted way we've done this. So February 4th, here we are, informational webinar, and the upload template will be sent back to you today. You'll have basically a week head start to start working on this task of uploading this information that we've asked for. The portal will be open from the 10th to the 18th, and that template that we send you, you will simply populate it and turn right around and upload it back within that window of time. Remember that we're asking for every month this year, so this is a batch upload. It's not necessarily by the month. We're capturing what month of eligibility for these kids, but you will go all the way back to August and say, here's our DC list, here's our students that qualify for free and reduced lunch, and you will upload from August to February, the day that you submit. Then February 23rd, we will have a benefit verification review informational webinar for directors, schools, and attendance supervisors, and we'd love to have nutrition supervisors on that as well. Even though your responsibilities don't have a lot to do with it, we want to be informational with you. So we will get into the details of the benefit verification review. We will take you through screenshots of what the portal looks like. We will make sure that you're comfortable with that. We will have technical assistance for you if you're not, and we just want to be as helpful as we can. The first benefit verification review window will be March 28th through the 11th, February 28th through March 11th. What we'll look for during that window of time is the August and September months only. We will only verify those 2 months. So you may say, we're uploading all these months, and which months are we going to be dealing with on the first BVR? You'll only be dealing with August and September. So any kid that had an A for August and September, an absence code, we're going to send back to you, and you're going to say, yep, this is correct, or these kids had COVID-related absences, and we want to make sure that they earn their benefit, you'll have the ability to do that and turn around and upload those files right back to the ServiceNow portal. Second BVR, March 14th through the 18th. We'll be looking at October through December data, where you will verify that data. Third BVR, April 18th through the 29th, where we'll be looking at January, February, and March data only. Then the fourth BVR, May 16th through the 20th, where we'll be looking at April data only. And then the fifth BVR, which is to be determined as far as the date goes, but we'll be looking at May data. If any schools go into June, we'll be looking at that and some cleanup. Talked a little bit about the reconsideration process and appeals. I think that will be minimized this year as a result of the benefit verification review. I hope that's exciting to you. It is for us. And then we will have one benefit issuance day in May or early June. So we will not be issuing benefits on a staggered basis along the way. We will have one day in late May or early June where students are issued benefits. I know you get that question all the time at the local level, and you're like, I don't know when you're going to get your benefits. Now you can say it will either be in late May or early June. Here's the visual that I promised you. This is the same information that I just read to you on the previous slides. It's just in a different format. So you'll see that first NSLP application upload February 10th through the 18th when the portal opens. You'll be able to upload all your information there. And I'm seeing a typo there. Actually, I'm not. No, that's correct. Okay, good. Then you see the first benefit verification review process. You see number 2. There's that all-important second upload of NSLP applications. If your kids don't get their application in by the probably early April, I know that says TBD, it'll be sometime in early April, and we'll communicate that with you. If there's any kids that need to fill out an application, or families that need to fill out an application for free and reduced lunch, make sure that they do it by that second upload period. Then you'll see the third benefit verification review process, number 4, number 5, and there's that distribution date of May 30th there. That could bleed over into early June, so just making you aware of that. Action items. So upload that template, and it's going to be sent to you today. You can start working on it, and you're going to upload that thing. If you're a non-CEP district, then you're going to upload all the free and reduced eligible students, including your DC list, for August through the current February date, right when you submit. If you're a CEP district, you're going to upload your entire enrollment. If you're a CEP school, you'll upload your entire enrollment for that school. But there's your timelines there. We'll be sending you an email this afternoon that it has the template, it has the resource guide, it has the PowerPoint that you're looking at today. We will send the link to this webinar out first of next week when we clean it up and make sure everything's good to go with it. But that's what you'll be receiving today. And then you know about the BVR timeline. We've looked at it. You'll be able to go back through on this PowerPoint and look at that again for your understanding. I will definitely say that it is essential that these timelines are met for the eligibility and issuance of these earned benefits. I can't stress that enough. We appreciate what you've done. We appreciate what you're going to do. I hope you're feeling a little bit better about what the expectations are for this year, and that we've really improved the process and hopefully decreased the burden on you and school systems. We know you're working hard and have been working hard for going on 2 years now. We want to support you as much as we can. So we want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for what you've done and what you're going to do. And we appreciate you. Here's my contact information. Absolutely send me any question that you've got. Again, you can rely on your field service nutrition consultants out there. We've got 10 of them across the state. You know who they are. If you're a nutrition supervisor, maybe you don't if you're a director of schools or an attendance supervisor, but definitely ask your nutrition supervisor in your local district, and they know who they are. But absolutely send me any question that you've got, and we'll be glad to answer that and make you feel more comfortable with what we're doing this year for round 4. Randa, what kind of questions do we have? I'm not seeing the chat, so I'm going to rely on you to read me some questions, and I'll try to answer them. Any questions?
Oh, sorry, I was talking on mute. Wow.
Okay. I was like,
let me start that all over what I was just saying.
Okay.
I want to start by clarifying about the Snow platform. I think there's a little bit of confusion because we haven't really used that terminology before, but Snow is the same platform that was used previously for P-EBT DHS, correct?
Correct. ServiceNow.
Okay. So that was a big thing. The first question is actually related to previous rounds, and that is, when will we stop accepting appeals for rounds 1, 2, and 3?
Well, I can say from our friends over at the Department of Human Services that there's been a lot of appeals. And they have a backlog of appeals, and they have a staff that is doing the best that they can with trying to get that moving as quickly as they can. Can't put a date on when we'll be done with previous rounds, but I know they're catching up. And, you know, just be patient with us. And there's a lot of parents out there that think they deserve a benefit. Some do, some don't. And we've got to do our due diligence so that we don't issue benefits to folks who do not deserve benefits.
Okay. So for hybrid districts, and this hybrid term is referring to a mixture of CEP and non-CEP schools, do they upload the enrollment for the schools that are CEP and then just free and reduced for non-CEP?
Absolutely. You got it on the money.
Okay. And then do we know when this PowerPoint will be available to be shared?
It will be sent out this afternoon.
Okay. So this says we are sending all of this data to EIS. Can it be pulled from the database instead of each district doing this work separately?
So the attendance information is actually being pulled at the state level from EIS. The only thing on the uploads is that the template is asking for is student information. So we've got to be able to match up this kid with that attendance strain. And sometimes we can't. So if that state student ID is correct, then we can say, yep, that's Bill Byford, that's him, this is his address. We can send the card to that place, and actually the attendance is being pulled at the state level. So the only thing we're asking you to do is give us the student information.
Okay. What if school nutrition does not have access to the state ID?
Work collaboratively with your attendance supervisor.
Okay. What if we cannot separate the approval month and year into 2 columns when we pull our information?
Do the best you can.
Okay. Can you clarify what you mean when you say too sick to decode?
Yeah. So we realize, number one, when you utilize the decode, that actually means that a student is present and you are capturing attendance for that day. In order for a student to be present, there has to be a learning component involved. That learning component is remote instruction. Now, I'm not going to be the remote instruction police, but there's a lot of ways you can do remote instruction. And it involves the ability for a student who is sick, but not so sick that they can't learn. Like you may be asymptomatic and a kid sits home for, early on they sat home for 10 days. Now they're staying home for 5 days. We want to be able to continue their education if they're not too sick to learn. So the kids who are too sick to learn, like one of my 3 that's up here right now with COVID, he doesn't feel like doing any work. He's sick, but he's out for COVID-related reasons, and he's missing meals as a result of that. So if we can attest that the kid was out for COVID-related reasons, but we didn't decode him because he wasn't taking advantage of the learning component, he was too sick for that, we will issue benefit if we can prove that that's the case.
If a student is a rollover student, should the approval year be 19-20, or should the approval year for all students be 21-22?
Ooh, that's a good question. Did we get Dr. Dawes or Gary on here for that one?
I can respond to that, Bill. They will use the date whenever the carryover was stalled or halted, and if that was 2019, that would be the date that they would use.
Thank you for that.
So we're putting the year that they were approved for the benefit initially as the approval year, if they're carryover. Okay.
Yes.
Going back to the absence coding, does it matter if they're excused or unexcused, or do they just, if they're coded as absent?
Absolutely matters if they're excused or unexcused. If they're unexcused, we will not be querying for unexcused absences. And one reason that I've heard loud and clear statewide from a whole lot of directors of schools is we don't want to incentivize chronically absent kids to stay home and earn a benefit. So we're not looking for unexcused absences, we're looking for absences.
So any student that qualified in August through the first 3-day carryover will automatically be eligible for this year.
Would you repeat that, Randa?
It says, so any student that qualified in August through the first 30-day carryover will automatically be eligible for the year. I think this is asking that question. So let's say they were qualified in August, are we assuming that they are still qualified for benefits, that they were marked in August as qualifying?
Dr. Dawes, you help me here, but my thought on this question is if you qualified in August, unless you went through the local verification process where a district for compliance reasons checks if a student is still qualifying for benefits, that would be the only way that they would not qualify, is if you verified at the local level that the student no longer qualifies for benefits. And we know that that's a really small number statewide. In fact, that's under like 1,000 statewide. So most of the time, 99% of the time, if a student qualifies in August and there is no other paperwork done, then that student will qualify for the year. Dr. Dawes, am I on the money there?
You are on the money. When carryover was paused and that child qualified for free and reduced meals, that eligibility continues on into this year, so they would still qualify.
Thank you.
Do they upload each month separately?
So the way we've got it now is a batch upload, and that just is, using that template form and populating it. I mean, I can almost see where you could go back to August and the first however many children that you put on there were for August. We're not asking for monthly uploads. We've got those 2 columns over on the end that are asking for when they qualified for benefits. We feel like we can pull that if we need to, but no, it's just a batch upload.
Are DC students to be included in the upload or just income-based applications?
Both. Thank you. DC students and application students. Everything you got.
Okay. I had pulled those from the chat because there was a mixture of stuff. Let me go back to the chat, away from this Word document, and find where I stopped. Okay. That's another question about CEP versus not.
Randa,
So
we will also gather all these questions, and we're developing a Q&A. So if we didn't get to you today, don't fear. You can send me an email. I'll try to answer it, but we will be putting out a Q&A here pretty quickly.
What do attendance personnel need to do to get access to SNO?
So that's a great question. We've been scampering around today, obviously with the retirement of Paul Rainwater. He kind of owned the attendance listserv and the information that was out there for attendance supervisors. We pulled a list today, and we feel fairly confident about it. We've got field consultants working on looking at websites and confirming the fact of who is the SIS administrator versus the attendance supervisor. And a lot of times that's the same person, but sometimes it's not. So we're in the process of making sure that we've got the right folks for that. Absolutely, if you're new and you don't feel like you're on a list, or you just want to make sure, you can send me an email with your information, and I'll make sure you get on there. But we're doing everything we can at the state level right now to make sure we've got the right people involved.
There's a question about the recording being sent out, and we do plan to send that out. We're hoping to have it out early next week, but that is dependent upon a lot of levels beyond our control, but we are doing our best to get it to you as soon as possible.
We've got a rigorous communications review process, and it'll probably be Monday or Tuesday, like Randa says. Thank you.
What is the benefit amount?
The benefit amount is $7.10 a day.
Do we upload both active and inactive students?
So I would assume inactive students means that they're no longer in your district. And if that is true, then no, do not upload inactive students.
Is it only applications that have been processed this school year?
So from the state's perspective, nothing has been processed at this time. So at the local level, yes, your applications have been processed, and those kids are receiving the in-person benefits that they receive. From our perspective, the work really starts, well, it started with the creation of the plan, and we've been
Bill, if you're still talking, I can't hear you. Did he go out for everyone else? Or is that a me problem?
No, Randa, I'm not hearing him either.
Bill, can you hear us? Okay. It looks like he's moving his, Jerry, can you maybe send him a message that we can't hear him, that we've lost his connection?
I'll do that right now.
Thanks. Not really sure what happened. The next question, though, I think Gary or Sandy, you might be able to answer this one. This is a charter school outside of a larger school district. They are their own SFA, so do they submit their own information?
Yes, Randa, they would. They're the ones that are collecting the free and reduced application and doing the DC downloads on a monthly basis, and they would be responsible for that.
Okay. The next question is, what do they do if they were not coding students out with COVID as absences?
I believe as Bill mentioned, when those...
Gary, I think that Bill is calling me, so if he is, I can merge the call.
10-4.
All right, Bill, are you here? Hello? Bill, can you hear me? Bill, are you here? Can you hear me? Gary, can you hear me?
Yeah, Randa, I'm hearing you.
Okay, Bill should be connected here as well. Okay, so what if they were not coding students out as out with COVID as absences?
Well, they can't attest to what they don't know. So if they simply don't know if it was COVID related, they'll send it back to us just like they got us, just like they received it.
Okay.
And there'll be further training for attendance supervisors on that EBR process.
So someone said there is this refers to that separating the month and year. There is a formula to separate month and year in Excel, and they have also put it in the chat. So we will include that in our FAQ document. Going back to that question about active versus inactive students, to follow up on that, what if they were active in the beginning of the year, but they have moved or something like that?
So you're going to give us the best information that you have. You'll give us the best address you've got, and if they're no longer in your school, Sandy, what's your thought on that one?
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, if the child was enrolled when school began in August in your district, then you would include them on the list. If that child happened to unenroll, then that would be captured at the attendance level. So, in your August list, you would submit whoever's enrolled that's eligible for free and reduced meals. And then from then on out, EIS would capture that information for you. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that does help. I think I'm back, if you can hear me. So obviously we'll be looking for attendance information. So if that kid qualified and was in a certain school at the first of the year, obviously it'll show up in the attendance record, and we'll know when that kid's no longer with you.
Okay. Will SNO be as stringent as before when submitting data?
Well, this is a loaded question because I don't want it to be as stringent as it was before, but here's the problem. If you enter bad data, then that's what we get. So if you've got a wrong address in there, then the card won't make it to the kid. if you've got a bad state student ID number in there, then we can't validate that that's the kid. So I will say yes, it's not gonna you know, kick back as much this year as it did last year, but the instructions say you must do this, you must do that. We have relaxed some of those business rules, but that doesn't mean that we don't want the best data that we can get.
Is this for all students or just K-12? We have pre-K and Head Start that are part of our district enrollment.
Sandy, can you answer that one?
If you have students enrolled in your school that are eligible for free and reduced meals, I know in some pre-K programs that's not the case, but if they are eligible for free and reduced meals, then you would include those children.
Thank you.
There's a comment that says, please keep batch uploads, not each individual month. That was a pain, so they appreciate the batch, as this person.
Oh, thank you for your appreciation.
What do we put for month and year for CEP schools? August 2021?
Yes.
What if the student qualified on the first day of school but submitted a meal application and was denied in August?
That's that verification, local verification I spoke of, and we're in the process currently on trying to get some flexibility with the USDA on that. It's such a small number, but there may be some cleanup at the end in this summer where we have to pull some of those kids and look at their benefits. That's the benefit of only having one issuance date. We can go all the way through the cycle, and then any of those kids that lost benefits throughout the year, we can adjust that issuance amount. So I appreciate that question. We are looking into that.
Did I understand correctly, if a free or reduced student was out for 5 consecutive days, then all free and reduced students will receive P-EBT?
So, kind of. So the first kid that we established that's had reduced attendance as a result of COVID at your school early in the year, that's when that green light starts. That doesn't mean every kid gets a benefit. That means every kid past that point, if they're out for COVID-related reasons and they qualify for free and reduced lunch, will receive a benefit. There will never be a situation where one kid is out and everybody gets a benefit. Now, in CEP districts, if a school is closed down for 5 days, every kid in that school will receive a benefit. Every kid in a CEP school qualifies basically for free and reduced breakfast and lunch.
Can you clarify the term learning opportunity when absent?
So if you looked at State Board Rule 0520-01-13-.01, it goes really deeply into what that means. But basically, from a layman's perspective, it means if you're going to utilize the D code for a child that's in your school, that means that there is a learning component going on from a virtual or distance perspective or a remote perspective where that child continues to learn from home. There's several different ways, if you look that law up, on how you can do that. That can be synchronous. That can be the teacher calls and checks in on the kid on a daily basis. That can be paper pencil packet that was sent home. There's a lot of different ways that you can do that. But the essence or the spirit of the D code is there is still learning going on in a remote area, which is from that child's home at that point.
Can you explain why it is necessary to identify when each child qualified for benefits? if we know they qualified in each month, why is it important to notate when they became eligible? That's just another thing to determine by child.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Can you read that again?
Yes, so they're saying why is it necessary to identify when each child qualified for benefits? If we know they qualified in each month, why do they have to notate specifically when they became eligible? That's just another thing to be determined by each child.
Okay, I think on that template, it's basically those last two data fields. So we do want to know when that child qualified for benefits. It's part of the business rules and over issuance by the USDA that we have to collect some of that information. Some of the things that are within our plan, and that's the whole back and forth with the USDA and the iterational nature of the plan until it's approved, is how can we best serve our kids and serve our stakeholders in the least restrictive way that still keeps us compliant moving forward with the USDA. So I think that's just one of those things that the USDA wants us to gather, and therefore we do.
I think there's some confusion about CEP and SSO. So what if the school system is operating under SSO? We have 3 schools that qualified for CEP, 1 did not. We opted out of CEP for SSO.
Okay. Dr. Dawes, can you help me with that one?
I'm not exactly understanding what they're saying. So are they saying that they qualified for CEP, but because we're operating SSO and all meals are free, therefore they didn't even put in their application for CEP? So if that person can just reach out to me, I'll try to address that. Otherwise, because I'm not sure exactly what they're asking.
You can email sandy.dawes@tn.gov.
All right, I am trying to get to our updated questions. I'm at the part where we lost audio, so I'm scrolling through those to see what else we might have. I think we might need to clarify just one final time the active versus inactive and when they do become or should or shouldn't be on that list. We're getting several follow-up questions regarding that and how that should work.
Dr. Dawes, are you familiar with active versus non-active?
That might be that verification question that they're asking that about, where a child put in an application and then on verification they became inactive. That possibly might be it, or it may be that a child is no longer in their system. I'm not exactly sure. So,
well, the question is, if they're now inactive, do they need to include them on the list, or do they not need to include them on the list? I think we've sent there needs to be clarity around inactive students on the list or not on the list.
I will look up, you know, that terminology around active versus inactive, but just by the spirit of what those words mean to me, if you're inactive, that means that you probably don't qualify for free and reduced benefits at this point, and you're in a non-CEP school. So I'll go back and look at that, and we'll take down the information on who chatted that and try to get back to you on that if we've got enough information to do that, or you can absolutely send us an email and we'll find that out for you. But that's what my gut tells me.
Can you go over green lighting again?
Sure. So in August, when school starts, we will start from the first day of school, and we are looking for that first kid in a non-CEP school that qualified for free and reduced benefits that missed at least 5 consecutive days. And when we find that first kid, and let's just say it was August 15th, the kid was out from the 10th through the 15th. When we established that that was the first kid, then from the 15th moving forward, any child that qualifies for free and reduced lunch and was out for COVID-related absence will qualify for a benefit. That's the first thing. The second thing is we're also looking for if the school was closed or not 5 consecutive days. So if that school was closed for 5 consecutive days, on the 5th day, from that day forward, kids that qualify for free and reduced benefits will earn those benefits. But until that school is greenlit, meaning we've identified that first kid or we've identified the first 5 days of the school being closed, nobody will qualify for any benefits. But after that day is established, from that point forward, if you qualify for free and reduced lunch and you miss a day for COVID-related reasons, you'll earn a benefit of $7.10 a day.
Just to reiterate that 5 days, 5 consecutive closure or reduced attendance is due to COVID reasons, not due to like weather-related reasons.
Yes, thank you, Gary.
How many days are figured for each month for the $7.10 a day regarding benefit issuance?
So how many days a month are calculated at $7? So it'd be the amount of days that the kid was out. If the kid was out for 5 days for COVID-related reasons, it'd be, you know, $7.10 times 5 days. Whatever that amount of days that the child is out would be the amount of days that they qualified for the benefit of $7.10 a day.
Our addresses were correct, but the system kicked many out, which made us use our district office address, which was a big headache. Can you make sure the system isn't so stringent on addresses?
Well, I think it's not, but the problem is there was something wrong that made those addresses kick out, whether there was a comma in there or whether there was too many spaces in there or something. But in previous rounds, obviously it's very important to get the address right because you can't get a card to somebody that you don't have a good address on. So, you know, it won't be as stringent, but that doesn't mean we don't need good, clean data.
Also, there's still a lot of comments about there was a period of silence. I'm hoping that that nothing was actually missed because there was also silence for us, so Bill wasn't able to communicate during that time. So I don't know that you guys actually missed anything because I think we went back and covered it. So
I was on the contact slide, Randa. I was on the contact slide, so there was no additional information other than my contact information when that happened.
Yeah, I think they meant in the question and answer part, like they couldn't hear, so they're worried that they missed it.
Okay.
Okay, so if we see distance learning or virtual learning due to quarantine on a student's attendance record in EIS, that's what is being pulled to verify their attendance. I don't see it designated as an excused or unexcused absence.
So if you use D, then it'll show up as D. If you use A, it'll show up as A. If you use UA, unexcused absence, it'll show up as an unexcused absence. The things that we're most concerned about at the state level are the local codes. Let's just say a district uses Q. We don't recognize Q, and it defaults back to an A. So any local code will default back to an A, hence the need for the benefit verification review. And we think that you can go into your system and look at your local codes and say, that's not an A, that's actually a COVID-related absence, and we can fix that during the benefit verification review, which will minimize appeals and reconsideration and all those other things that are a headache to you.
Okay, so to follow up regarding that whole silence thing, I do think you were in the middle of answering why it is necessary to list when they qualified, and I don't know if we got the full answer of that. So if we could revisit why that time is necessary.
So we write a state plan in collaboration with the Department of Human Services, and when we write that plan, we send it in to the USDA, and they have certain things that they agree with and certain things that they do not agree with. If they ask us to include something, then we do it, whether we really understand it or agree with it or not. It's a compliance thing. So I believe those two fields were as a result of feedback that we got during the iterational process of going back and forth through the USDA for approval.
And then
and like I said too, here was the last comment that I said too, do the best you can there. If that's something that's holding you up and you can't put your finger on that data, I don't think it's going to hold you up from submitting. And it's definitely not going to hold us up, I don't think, from issuing benefit. So, I mean, do the best you can with it, but if it's something that you just don't have, I would think that you would have it from applications, and I would think that you would have it through the DC list. I'm not exactly sure on why that's a pain point to list that on the template, but, you know, my guidance would be to do the best you can and try to populate each field.
I think another thing to think about when you are talking about when the student became eligible for free and reduced benefits is that, again, this benefit issuance is on an individual case-by-case basis. So let's say, for example, you had a student who was absent 5 days in August, and they were actually a paid student in August, but then in November they became a free student. If my understanding is correct, they wouldn't be eligible for P-EBT until they actually became eligible for benefits. So where we're matching up the absence days to the benefit days, that's why we need that month. Is that a correct statement?
That is absolutely correct. Any other questions, Randa?
I am scrolling through. There's a lot of active versus inactive questions and comments. So, again, I think we'll definitely focus on clarifying that in our FAQ document that we'll be sending out. Another question, they only receive benefits for school days and not weekends, correct?
Correct.
Again, for CEP schools, you are uploading your entire student database for eligibility, and then they're only qualifying if they're absent. So this is a two-step process. CEP will provide the eligibility, and then attendance will come in later. So not everyone in that school will receive benefits automatically like we did previously.
Unless the school is closed.
Unless the school is closed.
Yeah, so you got a couple of scenarios. So it will be individualized per student absence, and it will also, if the school is closed for, let's say you applied for a commissioner waiver and you got early on you got a 7-day waiver. Each student in a CEP school, as a result of school closure for COVID reasons, would receive a $7.10 benefit. The other side of that is the school is operating. Most of the kids are, you know, you've got good attendance, but you have some kids that were out for COVID-related reasons. Those particular kids would only receive benefits in that scenario.
Where do they refer parents who have questions?
So you'll receive a lot of resource documents from us in the coming days and weeks, and there are several contact numbers, 1-800 numbers for DHS within those materials, so we'll be sure to send those to you.
If the student was enrolled in more than one school during a month because they transferred between schools, do they extract them for both schools?
So I believe through our EIS data downloads that we'll be able to see where that child is and be able to sift through that for you.
Do we know anything about if there will be a summer benefit like last year?
Dr. Dawes?
We have not heard yet on summer P-EBT for next year or this year.
Okay, we are officially caught up on all of the chats and the questions. So I think that's it, especially since we're 20 minutes over. Bill, Sandy, Gary, do you guys have any final closing remarks or thoughts?
Absolutely, I do. So we appreciate everything you've done. We appreciate what you're going to do. We hope this is the navigation of this for round 4 is looking more positive for your benefit in schools and districts, because we know how hard you're working. So anything that we can do at the state level to mitigate your workload, we're trying to do that through our EIS system and through our various platforms that we've got here. There will be times that we have to contact you in the event that we don't have the data that we need to make a decision. We're going to try to not do that to you as much as we can, but there may be instances where we have to contact you. We appreciate you being here today. We look forward to serving you throughout the year and supporting you throughout your programs. We'll get this this information out to you this afternoon, and absolutely the link for this, so you can listen back through if you need to. And for your folks who are out today, they can be able to listen to it when they get back in for weather-related reasons. But we thank you for being here today.
Thank you, everyone. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you.